All right, so good job in there. We're going to spend the next couple minutes talking about your patient care and the case that we just had. We're going to use the debrief model for the session. So to start, we're going to define some rules for the debrief. So I want us all to be respectful of each other. Let's not over-talk each other. So if you have to rebut or you want to add something to the conversation, just wait for the person who's talking to be done so we can be respectful of that person. Can we all agree to that?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, great. So I want to talk about just the learning objectives real quick and what I was hoping to get out of this. So the idea was for you guys to go in, put on appropriate PPE, identify a patient who is hypoxic and in respiratory distress, and administer oxygen in a timely fashion. All right, so benchmarks for performance for this patient is to administer oxygen to the patient quickly and efficiently using a non-rebreather mask, and to wear gloves while taking care of the patient. We use the American Heart Association's model of airway, breathing, circulation in assessing and intervening for taking care of patients. So to quickly review what I was hoping to happen is you'd walk into the room, put on some gloves, introduce yourself, identify your patient, identify that the patient was in respiratory distress, identify that the patient was hypoxic while obtaining vital signs, place the patient on a non-rebreather, and have an ongoing level of communication with not only the patient but with the family member as well. So to identify what happened, can you guys just walk me through your case?
Sure. There was a patient that we walked into that was short of breath and had some distress. A family member was there, gave us some information, we assessed the patient and put oxygen on. The patient got what they needed.
Sure. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. That's what happened.
All right, so now we're going to kind of examine what we saw and what occurred in your case compared to what we had outlined previously. And John's going to cover the PPE piece, and I'm going to cover some of the things we noticed about oxygen delivery. So, John?
Thank you, Andrew. So one thing I noticed in the simulation was, Andy, you didn't have any gloves on. I just wondered if you could just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I didn't think I needed any gloves. I thought the patient was fine. I didn't have any contact precautions or anything, so I didn't have really any concern about it.
I could have looked out for him. I did put gloves on because I didn't know if the patient was going to be coughing stuff up and
Right.
I could be exposed to it. So, I should have looked out for him and told him safety first, we come first.
Yeah, that's good.
So talking about the oxygen piece, so we wanted you to deliver oxygen via non-rebreather. And so I noticed it took you some time to get the non-rebreather on the patient. There was some discussion about his pulse ox level and whether or not it was high enough. And I was just wondering if we could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed when I put the pulse ox on, he was standing at about 88.
Mm-hmm.
I had a concern that maybe that was a little too low for him. And I went to put oxygen on. When I talked with Lori and cross-checked, she didn't think we had a concern yet. So we just held off for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know the patient had a history of emphysema, so I know you can't give him too much oxygen, so that's why I held off.
Okay. So certainly we want to be careful with giving too much oxygen to patients who don't need the oxygen, but patients who are in distress, including those that have COPD, we shouldn't withhold oxygen, and ultimately we want to deliver the right amount. So whether you start with a nasal cannula or non-rebreather, you ultimately want to marry to where the patient needs their pulse oximeter to be and to help alleviate the distress. The latest evidence shows that oxygen doesn't depress respiratory drive in patients with COPD. So although the theory and the chemistry might make sense on paper, clinically it really hasn't panned out that way. So I just want to kind of finalize and formalize the learning that happened today. If we could just go around the room and if you want to share something that either went well or not so well that you're going to take back and trying to change in your clinical practice, and what you would do different next time.
Yeah, I guess I would have put my gloves on. That definitely is something I'll take home with me, just to protect myself better.
All right.
I think it's important to keep current on the most recent literature regarding the use of the oxygen and whether or not you should or shouldn't give it to that patient.
I think we really communicated well with the family member, so I think that's a thing we did well as a team.
All right, great. Any other questions that you guys might have?
No.
All right. You guys ready for the next case?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's go.